Welcome back to another GR Corolla video. In this video, I'm going to review my Eibach Sportline spring kit that I've been riding on for over a month now. And if you stay to the end of the video, I'm also going to give you 5 common mistakes that are very easy to make when installing these lowering springs. So if you want to see that, make sure to stay to the end of the video. And if you're new to the channel, my name is TJ and I've been building my GR Corolla on the channel. Also have an Audi TT RS. And before we get started, make sure you hit the like button on this video and also subscribe for some more content. All right, so I'm going to start off this video by giving you guys a little bit of a walk around of the car so you can see what it looks like. This is pretty low. It actually looks like it's tucking. I think if I had spacers pushing it out, it probably wouldn't be, but since it's behind those big wide fenders, it kind of makes it look like it's a little bit lower than what it actually is. But don't be fooled, this thing is still very low, and as you can see from the mud flaps that I have installed on the front, they are literally about an inch off the ground. All right, so getting right into this review, I think that this spring kit is the lowest spring kit that you can actually get for a GR Corolla right now currently on the market. And just like the title says, this is the Sportline kit from Eibach, and I do have the bump stops in on both sides, and this thing is settled. So just to give you guys an idea on settling, it seemed like this car settled to the correct ride height, or the final ride height, probably about 3 days of driving, maybe 4, but after that it seems like it was in the same position and it didn't move any more than that. So after about 3 days of driving, you could probably expect that that's going to be your final ride height. But when it comes to fitment, I think that this is just perfectly nailed. The way that it's low, like I love my cars low, basically dragging on the ground, and I wasn't completely sold on a coilover setup, so I wanted to try these springs, and I was really happy with how these ended up being so low for just a spring. Now, comparing this to OEM, I was actually riding on the OEM setup here for probably about 6 months before I actually changed it out. So my perspective from the OEM was that it was pretty stiff from the factory. Driving on the highway seemed pretty smooth as well, but you have to take in mind that it is still a stiff suspension from the factory. Now, after putting these on and driving on these springs for about a month, I would say that it's very, very similar to the OEM setup. The only thing that I would say is that it's probably a tad bit stiffer, maybe a little bit bouncier on the highway than the OEM setup, but other than that, it really isn't that much different. I think that Eibach nailed it when it came to the same OE feel. Now, I actually just got back from the track. I did my GR experience and I ended up going to pit race, met a couple guys that were pretty cool. It was a good time, longer day than I expected, and the car kind of got beat on. I definitely got a bunch of nicks on the car that were not there before the track day. So keep in mind, if this is your baby and you don't want the paint to get messed up, you're probably not gonna want to do that track day, but it was still a really good time. But anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because does this rub on the track? Honestly, my answer to that is no. I think the main reason behind that is the fact that I don't have spacers on the car. As you can see, this does sit pretty close in on the fenders and it's tucked in pretty well. So if you had spacers on this, I would really imagine that it would rub, but I didn't hear any rubbing at all while I was on the track. Of course, a track is going to be a lot smoother and there's not going to be like bumps, but you are whipping around turns. And honestly, I get more rubbing from like daily driving, which brings me into my next point. Now, the other question is, does this car rub when you're daily driving? And the answer to that would be yes. Now, it does rub, but it only rubs whenever I'm going over bumps or speed bumps or like a curb or something, like I'm pulling into my driveway. But honestly, it's really not that bad. And I kind of just see like it rubs a little bit like on the inside, but these fender flares are so big that I don't think you'll really have an issue much if you don't put spacers on it. Now, if you do, comment down below if you put spacers on your Eibach Sportline spring kit and your car doesn't rub or it does rub. Let me know in the comments below. It'll absolutely help somebody else out that's looking on this video. They'll be able to read the comments and know. I'm curious to know if you track drive the car with this spring setup with spacers, if it rubs or if it doesn't, because I would just imagine that it would, but I can't give you 100% certainty on that. So don't listen to me when it comes to the whole spacer side. I really want to hear from you guys in the comments section below. Now, I know when these springs first came out, a lot of people were complaining about the clunking noises that you were getting at parking lot speeds and when you were turning or going into reverse. And I was kind of concerned about that myself, so I actually reached out to Eibach, and this is what they said. But after Eibach reached back out to me on email, they actually sent me pictures of the problem because everybody was messaging them asking what was going on and if there was a solution. Basically, it all came down to the top hat on the strut mount, and that just had to be aligned to the bottom of the strut. And as long as that was lined up, you wouldn't have any issues. So if you follow my install steps for the front in my video that I'll link in this video, then you shouldn't have any noises that people are complaining about. The quality of this kit is great, and if you're looking to go pretty dang low without using coilovers, then I definitely recommend that these are the way to go. They actually make my car sit exactly how I wanted it to look, but with springs instead of coilovers. So I'm actually pretty shocked that you can get that low and get this kind of fitment that I desired with just springs. Because let's be honest, a lot of companies that produce springs for different cars, you just can't do that. And usually you just have the problem of not being exactly where you want or low enough. But honestly, to me, I feel like they nailed it, and I wouldn't have to even adjust this a millimeter. Another thing that I was worried about was when we buy this car, we get like the oil change package that's included with the Toyota Care. And I was wondering, hey, if I lower this, am I going to be able to drop the car off at Toyota and they're going to be able to put this on the lift and everything? Or am I just stuck having to do the oil changes? Honestly, that didn't matter to me too much if I had to do them myself. So I was still going to lower the car regardless. But I will say that I did drop my car off at Toyota. I was talking to one of the technicians and they said they were able to put my car on their lift absolutely no problem. They've actually had lower like GR86s in there that they've been able to do, but they didn't have an issue putting that up there. And afterwards I like checked everything over underneath the car to make sure nothing was actually damaged, or they didn't like pull the fenders up to get the car to lift higher or anything, but it seemed like they did it. He said they didn't have an issue, so that's another thing to consider if you are worried about that. Now, the only downside I can actually see to lowering the car this low was that the first thing that I noticed whenever I got in the car to drive it was the handling was reduced a lot. It felt like it had a ton of understeer now. That was kind of expected. I was a little bit disappointed at the same time, just because these cars are meant to handle so much, and if you lower it that much, you're kind of taking away some of the performance aspects. Now, it's not an air ride, so let's not go that far and say that I ruined the car, because I know there's a lot of other people that do this, and taste is just subjective to what you want. Like, I'm not a track guy. Honestly, I don't recommend that you guys follow my page if you're looking for a GR Corolla owner that's going to give you like the best track mods or track tips or track videos, because honestly, that's not my thing. I'm not trying to make this car a track car. I want to make it a back road, good handling, fun car to drive that sounds good, looks good, like kind of OEM plus, and that's kind of the look that I like to go for. So the handling reduced was expected, and if you're looking to track drive your car and you want the best handling, I'd probably recommend you either stay stock or you get a kit that is a little bit higher than this, and I think you'll be quite all right. Now, I do have a strut bar under the hood here that I installed, the Blitz. I'll link a video to that if you guys are interested about that. That helped my handling a lot. And I know a lot of people say that it's just decoration. I'm going to make another review video on that coming out next, so make sure you subscribe for that if you want to see a review on that strut bar. But definitely, I noticed that the handling was a lot better after I installed that strut bar. So I'm sure if I didn't have that strut bar and lowered the car this much, it would probably handle that much worse. So the reason why I'm saying all that is if you guys lower this car and you realize that the handling is absolutely terrible, there are a couple things that you can do to kind of get it back on track, and that strut bar is something that I recommend. Sway bars are going to be another thing that you're going to want to do front and rear. I know for the front you got to drop the subframe, but that's a whole nother topic. But overall, just taking a look at this car, I think that it did exactly what I wanted it to, and I think it's all going to be based on your preference, if how low you want the car, what kind of handling you're looking for, and what kind of fitment you're trying to achieve. Some people are going to want to have coilovers, some people are going to not want to do anything at all and just keep it the way that the car is. That's completely fine. Everybody's car is their own, and I respect that. All I'm saying for me is this is exactly how I wanted it, and I think the car sits absolutely beautiful. All right, so thank you guys for sticking with me this far. Before we go into the next part of this video, I just want to thank everybody who has subscribed to me already, because we hit over 1,000 subscribers, and I haven't really made a video about that. But guys, that is a huge freaking milestone. When I started this channel, it was honestly just because I wanted an outlet for myself to make videos, because I absolutely love love editing and I'm always goofing around with my cars. So I started just making videos just for fun for myself that like I can look back on in like 5 years, 10 years and just be like, wow, that was a really cool part of my life. And honestly, I never really thought that I was gonna get to 1,000 subscribers this fast. So I do want to thank every one of you that has watched my videos, has liked them, has subscribed or anything. You guys are awesome and I appreciate you so much. And I'm excited to see what else I have in store for this channel because I kind of just play it by ear. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. The videos just come to me. If I think it's a good idea, I just make the video. But we are building this on the channel and I'm sure there's gonna be more cars in the future that I'm going to get, more projects that I'm gonna do. And we still have a 700 horsepower Audi TT RS that needs some love coming up here soon. All right, guys, so now let's get into the second part of this video, which is going to be 5 common mistakes that you can make and that I basically kind of have made some of them when I installed these springs myself. So make sure you watch this part of the video so that you guys don't make the same mistakes that I did. All right, guys, mistake number 1, and don't be this guy, please, because I've already seen at least 3 videos and I don't feel the need to call anybody out on this because we all make mistakes and it's all good. But I've seen 3 different videos of people putting the bump stop in the wrong spot. Either people are not putting the bump stop on the rear because they know it's a lot more work, and trust me, it is. But if you follow my video, you are gonna know exactly how to do that. And I promise you, the ride quality remains just like OEM. And the reason why you want to switch the bump stops is because whenever you lower the car, you're gonna lose about an inch of travel and that shock is gonna keep bottoming out too early and it's not gonna be a comfortable ride. So you're gonna wanna do it. That's why Eibach sent the bump stop with the kit and included it. They designed it specifically for the kit. So if you're not using it, you're only hurting yourself. Another thing is that I'm seeing people put the rear bump stop that's in the kit on the front. Oh my gosh. I can't believe this. Like, I mean, it's not my car, but like, gosh. And these videos are out there and I just really hope that you guys are not watching those videos and doing exactly what they do. Like, hopefully you paid attention and realized that they did it wrong because they're just screwing up so many people and all of your ride qualities are going to suck if you do that. So honestly, that's it. Like for number 1, just follow directions, look at the directions in the kit. It'll tell you exactly which part number goes where, but you want to make sure that the smaller one is going in. You do not want to put a bigger one in or a longer bump stop than what's already in the position. So please don't do that. That's why I put that at number 1 because that's probably the most important one. All right, guys, so that's going to bring me to point number 2 of the common mistakes that you can make on your GR Corolla when putting the lowering springs on. And trust me, this one I did do myself and I'm not proud of it. And that is going to be the trailing arm bushing is going to be in the rear. So first of all, this is supposed to be a very, very easy side. But if you take the bolt off, the trailing arm pops down and it actually looks like this. But whenever you're screwing around doing all the other stuff and the knuckle, lowering the knuckle, and if you do the upper and lower control arms and all that nonsense, that trailing arm can just bounce up and down when you're moving stuff around, especially when you're done and you put a jack on the trailing arm and you're trying to line up the bolt. What can easily happen, and I'm gonna actually just show you guys in the video because I still have this video pulled up on my timeline right now, but I'm gonna show you exactly what happens here. This thing like slid up and you can see the grease coming out. It's actually even worse on the other side, but I ended up putting a zip tie around this. I found a very skinny one, zipped it pretty tight, still able to move freely. That trailing arm can pop up and it can whack the bushing, and there's a bunch of grease that's in that bushing and it can just push it off, and it's a absolute nightmare to put it back on. I don't know how I put it back on. I couldn't find a new one online like to replace, but oh my gosh, I'm sorry guys, I'm like reliving it. It was a nightmare. It took me like 2 hours to put those back on with a flathead screwdriver and just wiggle them on, and I really do not want you guys to go through that, but I ended up doing it to both sides, not just this side, but I did it to the other side too. So the reason why I wanted to make this video and put this in there is because if I did it twice, like kind of by accident, And I think it had more so to do because I was doing the upper and lower control arms and moving that stuff around a lot, that it's probably not that hard to do. I'm not a mechanic. All right, that's gonna bring me to point number 3, and that is gonna be in the front where I pulled the knuckle down on the top, and I'm gonna show you here in a video exactly kind of what happened. Where I screwed up before was this little, this axle on the CV inner joint. So you do not wanna let this hub spin at all when this is off, because if this pulls down and this drops and swings forward, like right now, I can angle this up inward from the top. But if this gets pulled down too much from the top and you spin this by accident, you could pull that out, the joint out, and then whenever you put this up and go to push it back, this actually won't even move at all. And what you have to do is rotate the axle by spinning these. I just put a lug nut on here and spun this around, and you just keep pushing, and then it will just click in all of a sudden. It was the CV joint and the axle, the CV joint or the axle, it popped out, and I spun the hub a little bit and it misaligned everything, and I was not able to push the knuckle back up afterwards, and I had no idea what was going on in that moment, and I was kind of like freaking out. And what I do is I go straight online to Google, YouTube, whatever, and I try to look up what's a common mistake that people make. And I ended up finding a video that showed me what to do to pop it back in, and you basically just spin it around and keep pushing it forward, and it does pop in. So that one's not the worst thing that could happen, but if you do let that joint pop out, you can actually rip the boot, which I double checked on mine and I didn't. But if you do rip the boot and pull too hard by accident, you can actually pop it off, which is going to be nearly impossible to get back on, or you could rip it and then you might have to replace it, because grease would probably therefore be flinging around and dirt could get in that joint, and it's going to cause it to fail prematurely. So don't be like me and make sure you're very delicate so that you don't pull that joint out. All right, number 4, common mistakes that you can make when installing springs on a GR Corolla is going to bring me to the front yet again, and that's going to be the top hat of the actual strut. And I'm going to show you here in a video of what I mean, but this top hat, as you can see in this video, has to be lined up, and this is where everybody's having that issue about the turning the wheel at parking lot speed, clicking. It's because this little notch right here has to be lined up with the top of the strut whenever you put it back in the car. It goes in a certain way, and if it's not that way, it is going to click. So that's pretty much everybody's problem that they're having with this clicking. That's what it is. It's not because you don't have enough rubber here. It's because this little mark right here has to be lined up. And that is why people are having clunking issues when low speeds, is because that strut top mount is actually tapered. So if you put that in wrong, it's sitting at a little bit of an angle, not completely flush, and that's going to be the problem. Whenever you screw it on initially, it doesn't have to remain straight because you can spin it after it's tight. So don't worry about that. It's actually easy. But so make sure that's just angled, lined up before you put that back into the car, and you won't have any noises. That's not one of the issues that I did, but I did end up reaching out to Eibach on that, like I said, and they sent me this picture and showed me exactly what to do. So if you're one of those people that got really scared after somebody said, oh, they have clunking issues, and then everyone else was like, oh, I have clunking issues too, don't be freaked out, because that's the solution. If that was stopping you from getting the dream lowering spring kit that you wanted on your Corolla to get the best possible fitment and look, don't worry, just do what I said, get the kit, and you can still get that awesome stance that you know you wanted. All right, y'all, this is going to bring me to my 5th and final common mistake that you can make when installing the springs on a GR Corolla, and that is just going to be like kind of a bonus tip for me. Make sure that you have the right proper tools to do the job, and also allot yourself the amount of time to do this job as well, because with all the issues that I ran into, this job kind of took me like 4 days, and it took a lot of time to straighten those issues out, to do research and everything. If you follow these tips, it should make your job a lot easier and you won't have to run into these mistakes. But make sure you have enough time to do this job in general, and also make sure that you have enough tools, because by the end of this job, every tool that I owned was on the floor scattered in my garage at some point or another. So if you don't have the right tools, like a Torx wrench or like an impact gun that has like 600 foot-pounds or something like that, or just, I don't know, a helping hand or a lot of strength, I don't know, make sure you have the right tools to do this. Check out out my other video because I do have tools linked in the description of what you need, and you can also see what I did on the job so you can see if you have the right tools to do the job yourself. Look at that thing. It looks absolutely gorgeous, just sitting there slammed on the ground. I feel like I could just pick it up. It's like a little Hot Wheels. You can just pick the thing up, just move it. All right guys, that is it for today's video. Make sure that you subscribe for some more GR Corolla content, and I appreciate you guys so much in watching this video. Make sure you hit the like button as well, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.